Hey guys, welcome back. So today we got a very special video because we're going to be comparing side by side the EFX Collectibles Mandalorian helmet next to the Anovos Mandalorian helmet. Both companies have the licenses to be able to go and look at the original props. So both companies took a different route. EFX actually casted theirs from one of the original helmets. Anovos took a different route and they actually digitally scanned one of the original helmets. So I'm really excited to take a look at it, look at all the details. I am gonna do different lighting, so stick around, watch the whole video. So I'll do it in 3 different light settings, so that way we could really appreciate the paint job on both helmets. So I'm really excited, guys. Let's take a look. All right, so here it is. Let's go ahead and open it up. And the first thing obviously comes with, not a toy, but here is the certificate of authenticity. So like I mentioned, this is a licensed replica. So EFX had access to the original prop in order to make this helmet, but so did Anovos. Here it has a little booklet with the story of how they actually casted the helmet, and here is the helmet that we've all been waiting for, and there it is. So right off the bat, I mean it's beautiful. it's a great looking helmet. The paint is definitely different than Anovos. I like the fact that it's lightly weathered, and you could kind of see there's differences here in the paint. You could see it's a little bit, I don't know if it's like a goldish tint to that back piece, and then the ears also have kind of a I guess like a brownish weathering effect on them. The other thing I could immediately see is that the parts are definitely a lot sharper than the Anovos helmet. Now here's the EFX helmet with just regular LED from my collection room. I didn't want to turn on the camera flash. As you can see here, the ear is definitely sharper. The Anovos one had a little bit rounder edges for the ears. The other thing I immediately noticed, again, besides the obvious color difference right there of that back plate, is that the strip that runs across the helmet is a little less detailed on the EFX one, which I don't know if it has to do with the way it's casted or if that's just, Anovos just made theirs a little more idealized. But it's a great looking helmet. I really like the weathering on the cheeks. I think it definitely looks more accurate. Now here's the helmet with my flash on, and you could kind of see where the weathering is actually applied. Now obviously with the flash on, it's overly exaggerated where you could see all the weathering, but I do appreciate this weathering if you see it in person. Over the Anovos one a little bit more. It's a little more realistic than the Anovos version. That back piece, again, I'd have to look at some, I don't know if it's gold like that. It really is like a tannish gold. As you can see there, the weathering is different, and the little black paint is actually like a matte color, versus the Anovos is a little bit more of a glossy. So here are the two helmets next to each other. Now it was a little hard to kind of get the right angle to show both of them exactly the same. But the first thing you could obviously notice is that the Anovos helmet is definitely shinier. The paint scheme is a little bit different. You could also see that the ears, again, are painted differently than the EFX one. This is kind of the more dramatic difference, is the way the back plate is painted. Like I said, the EFX is, I don't know, it's not really a gold color, as it's more of a weathering effect, but you can definitely see the difference. You could definitely see how shiny the Anovos one is compared to the EFX one. Now, it's not really anything to do with the weathering. I think it's just the way it was painted. You could see here the ears are also painted differently, and you could see how the Anovos one is a little bit rounder. Here's a shot of the ears again. You could see how the Anovos one is kind of glossier. It's almost like an enamel paint. And here's the top, and here's what I'm talking about. You could I guess the gaps, or the strips are deeper in the Anovos version. Now here's the same obviously shot, but with my flash on, and again you could definitely see more of the differences between the paint jobs. As you can tell, the EFX one, it's weathered right on the cheeks, heavier than the Anovos one. And again, that back piece, that back plate, definitely painted differently. Again, I don't have a reference for that back one. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the D23 helmets, but yeah, I'm not too sure about that. But here's another shot, and again, the EFX one's definitely more weathered than the Anovos one. Except kind of here, Anovos seems to be a little bit more weathered around the ears, and the weathering is definitely just a different style and different color on both helmets, as you can see there. Now, I was looking at the Entertainment Weekly cover with the Mandalorian helmet, and the EFX paint scheme is definitely a lot more accurate in regards to that helmet. Now, they could have used two different helmets, which is a big possibility that Anovos had access to one helmet, maybe a hero or a stunt, and then vice versa. EFX had access to some other helmet. So there could be variations in the helmets that they used. Now here are the two helmets in natural lighting, and there's a slight overcast right now outside, but you could definitely appreciate the shininess or lack of on the EFX one in this type of lighting. Again, the ears are painted different. The bottom of the ears on the Anovos one is actually painted the same color as the helmet, as opposed to the EFX one. It's definitely not. It's that same kind of gold brown color on top of silver. So it's definitely different there. And then here are the ears again, and the gap, you could kind of see the gap there, but I definitely notice the Anovos helmet, the ears are a little bit wider. And if you notice how they taper down on the bottom too. Here's another shot. Again, sharper. The ears are sharper on the EFX one, as opposed to the Anovos one tends to be a little bit rounder on the edges. As you can see there, less weathering obviously on the EFX one, but I do like the cheeks. I really like how EFX weathered those cheeks. Anovos is kind of just shiny, and Anovos has a little bit darker, the upper cheek part. They left it a little bit darker, but it's not a huge difference. Here you can see that the EFX one's actually weathered with that brown paint, obviously more than the Anovos one, you can see there. But after you watch this, definitely pull up the Entertainment Weekly picture and you could kind of see what I'm talking about, as how the ears don't taper off like the EFX helmet. And here's the detail. So here's that gap. You can see here it's not as defined on the EFX one versus the Anovos one. It's really defined. And again, I try to compare it to the Entertainment Weekly helmet, and the Anovos one tends to be a little bit closer to the original. Also, the way the Anovos one tapers down is closer. Here are the two helmets in fluorescent lighting. So again, I'm just trying to give you a sense of different lighting, because this helmet is very hard to photograph. So similar to the outdoor lighting, you could see a little bit more where the weathering is under this lighting. And you could actually see a little bit of a flake in the silver in the Anovos that you don't necessarily catch on the on the EFX when you see a little kind of like sparkly I don't know, flakes in the paint that you don't see with the Anovos. Here's the back again. Again, I have to look that up and see if I could find any reference shots to see whether it's kind of gold or brown like that versus the Anovos. Now, I do want to point out here, you could see how the EFX one is actually a little bit flatter on the chin, as opposed to the Anovos. Kind of, it peaks down. Again, I have to do a little bit more research to see which one's more accurate, but that could explain why the Anovos one tapers down a little bit better, like the original helmet. If you guys have watched the latest episode on Disney Plus, the gallery, they talk about that tapered effect, right? That's the difference between the Mandalorian and Boba Fett. That the face tapers down towards the bottom, and you could see it very clearly that Anovos got that. In my opinion, they got it right. They got it better. Again, I don't know if they're using the same helmet, but stylistically, the Anovos one looks a little bit closer to at least the hero helmets that we're seeing. Now here's again the paint. Another close-up of the ear and kind of the weathering around the ear. And you can see that's that brown color, that brown paint that they used for the bottom part of the ears and for the back plate. Which again, I don't know if that's accurate or not. And here you could see the roundness in this shot, right? The EFX one's just, it's all the parts are a little bit sharper. Now here's the size. Okay, so this is EFX, since it was about 29.5 in size, and the Anovos ends up being 31. So it's definitely a difference. And as you can see, the ears, so that's what 2 3/4, I think, around, and the Anovos one is about 3. So it's definitely wider and thicker. But here's the bottom of the ears. The EFX is a little bit over 1.5 inches, and Anovos is just slightly bigger than EFX. Now here's the very important part. So EFX, it starts about 1.5 inches, and it tapers down to about 1 inch and almost 1/4 on the bottom, versus the Anovos starts about at 1.5 inches and then tapers down to about 1 inch. So that's where you could see that the Anovos one is clearly more tapered than the EFX one. But it's slight. It's slight. It's not not a deal breaker. All right, and here is the weight. So the stand is about 50 ounces, and the EFX comes out at 85.4, and Anovos 91. That's with the stand. So here are the two side by side. You can obviously see that the Anovos one is wider, and it does taper down. Look, if you ask me, I'm actually more confused than I was before I received the other helmet. So hopefully you can make your own decision on these and, kind of figure out which one you want to buy more. And I still have to make a decision on which one I'm going to sell. But don't forget, subscribe, like, and watch out for the next video. Thanks, guys.